Hello everyone, happy 2026. I wanted to start this year off with something a little bit different. This time I'm going to be going with more of a talking style script rather than my previous very tightly written, well planned out scripts that I write and, go through the process of. Due to the nature of this topic, I wanted to be able to kind of let myself talk about my experience, because as I read over my written script, I was like, I don't think this is really coming across as sharing my experience, and it's more so just like a blog post that I could just share on the internet, and that isn't really helpful. I do want to say also that I know not many of you are following my Instagram because I have I don't even think I have 200 or 300 followers on there. I don't know. But I just do want to state, because this is the first video that I'm putting out for 2026, that I've changed a few things around in my life and I'm now prioritizing going a little bit more in the freelance direction. So you're going to see hopefully more frequent uploads from me from now on, and more types of videos like this where I am just discussing with you rather than reading off of a script. Depends on the topic of the video, of course. Sometimes there are going to be times where I want the script, and sometimes it's going to be time where I just want to talk. So for this one, I wanted to talk about my experience working full-time and also my experience just working in general alongside being an artist, whereas my job is not being an artist, it is doing something else. And I know many people are going to relate to the first one, maybe a little bit less of the second one, due to the nature of the audience that I may have attracted or the people who are on YouTube. So for the first one, I want to kind of talk about, we'll kind of start at the start, which I want to say, let's go high school, because I didn't start getting super into drawing around when I was 12. So that was the tail end of public school. Obviously I'm not working, lots of time to draw, and it didn't matter. I would get home from school, I would draw, whatever. I would play video games. I did not have to, at that time in my life, I did not have to budget my hobbies. I just got to do whatever I wanted. And getting into high school, I would say about the same thing. Homework is still super minimal. There were times when, I can't do X tonight because I'm doing homework. Oh, okay, big deal. But overall, on the average, I didn't have to, look at my life and say, I can't do this anymore because I'm busy, or because I have whatever going on. The amount of free time that was available to me, both in public school and high school, allowed me to draw so much. I could draw basically whenever I wanted. I could draw at school, I could draw on the bus. I had a phone at the time, obviously, and I drew on it because my bus ride was so long. It was I think it was up to an hour. I didn't get home until 4:30 p.m. a lot of the time. So I spent a ton of time drawing on my phone, drawing in class, drawing on lunch. I would draw all the time. And this obviously allowed me to do kind of whatever I wanted. And at that time, again, due to the nature of how, much my skills had developed and how much time I had, I was able to, color whatever I wanted. I drew whatever I wanted. There wasn't any time where I had to make decisions based on what I was going to draw, factoring into the time of the amount of time that I had. I could essentially pick up anything that I wanted. Sometimes I would start bigger illustrations. Sometimes I would just color something because I'm bored. Kind of what stems with a lot of my work at the time. And I think other people can relate with that as well with their own work, that the freedom to do whatever they wanted allowed them to draw whatever they wanted and finish whatever they wanted. Unfortunately, that did not last, but that is more of a recent development rather than one that's been around for a long time. Anyway, so getting into college, I cumulatively went to college for about 4 years at 2 different institutions, and there's a bit of a gap in between due to some issues that I had, but soon after, immediately after high school, I went to college, and my first year of college was so insanely easy. I took an art fundamentals course trying to get into illustration, and it was the easiest thing in the world. Not in terms of, what I was doing was technically easy, but more so looking back at it, the amount of free time I had was actually literally criminal. I had pretty debilitating ADHD at the time that was not medicated. motivated, and I would get myself into all sorts of situations, freak out, and then pull it all together because the work was just not that difficult, and I just had an insane amount of free time. I had more free time than I had in high school and public school because I was able to stay in a dorm and I was just able to do whatever I wanted. I drew so much. I played so many video games. I went out with my friends. The amount of free time I had was genuinely criminal. Once I finished up my first year of college, I did not get into that illustration program that I wanted. I ended up getting waitlisted and I didn't make it off the wait list in time, so just not enough people dropped out. So I ended up working over that summer. I don't exactly remember the amount of hours that I did. It was definitely part-time. It was not full-time. I know I worked 4 days a week and I think they were all like 7-hour shifts. So you're getting into what, like 28-hour weeks, which is almost 30 hours, which is 10 hours short of full-time. And it didn't necessarily change my art habits, I would say, in a negative way, because I think that amount of time basically equated to high school and college level. So at that point, I didn't feel like my time was being taken from me any more than what had already happened. Like, yeah, I was at work for like 7 hours and it took like 30 minutes to get there, but it wasn't a huge increase or change from what I was already used to. So my art habits did not necessarily change that much. I was still coloring as much as I wanted to. I was still drawing kind of as much as I wanted to. I had to budget my time a little bit differently, but that's just how it was. After that, I ended up going back to college for another year to finish up my diploma because I wanted some post-diploma 3D programs. And I would say that my experience during my second year gave me a little bit less free time compared to my first year, but I was still in a position where I could do essentially whatever I want. I drew all the time. The coursework was a little bit more intense, and I actually quite liked that program quite a bit because I was no longer at like the baby art fundamentals course level. I was at like more of a second year. So I didn't really have any change in my art at that time. Still kind of doing whatever I wanted. You could see, like, obviously my style progressed and my, forms refined, and there was a lot less, like, looseness sometimes, but overall it was pretty much the status quo. After that, I went back to school again in the program that I wanted, so I did an expedited 3D program, and that one was the first time where I kind of had to start budgeting my time a little bit. During my first semester of that 3D program, it was very, very, very easy. It was still difficult to grasp all the fundamentals of 3D, but on the all, again, similar to my first year of art fundamentals, this first semester was basically that. I had a lot of free time. I had so much free time that I was able to do all of my work in advance, and I could go visit my partner in California for the reading week. Like, that's how much free time I had. And I did not have that much free time ever again in that program. From semesters 2, 3, and 4, and then, as they ramped up, I had less and less free time, but I would say that my art skills, which also coincides with learning sculpting, which I think was one of the biggest things that changed how my art looks. So this was where I started learning how to sculpt, starting in semester 1 all the way to semester 4, but I did not fully start sculpting more and more and more until about semester 3 and 4 because I actually didn't like it until semester 3. It took me many, many months to get into it. So semester 1, breeze. Semester 2 starts really ramping up, but that was where I started having to do my daily sketches, which I've talked about in a previous video, and I think some other ones. I mostly talked about it in my exercises video because I kind of went over a bunch of the ones that I did. So even though I had less free time, it was also demanded of me to draw every single day, so that didn't affect my output too much, but it did affect kind of the subject of what I was drawing because I was pushing myself to do more of an exercise rather than like a personal kind of drawing, like do whatever I want sort of thing. Anyway, come semester 3, those daily sketches are still around, and then semester 4, they were dropped because I had a co-op sort of thing that happened, but I still tried keeping up with that sort of practice. And then once I graduated that program, I was unemployed for a little bit working on my portfolio, so I did not have a whole lot of free time to draw, and you can start to see like my drawing kind of fall off a little bit. And I also stopped coloring quite as much because I was focusing more on the form of what I was doing. This is a really big point at which my art changed, was right around that point there. Because from then on, I just kind of stopped coloring quite as much, and that still affects me very, very deeply to this day. Due to the amount of layoffs that happened within my field and the adjacent fields that I would have been able to kind of get into, I was not able to find any work. So I ended up having to go back to a similar part-time kind of retail thing. This time I worked also 4 days a week, but they were kind of pushing the hours quite a bit just due to the way that I got picked up and dropped off. So I worked like 9-hour shifts, but I only had to work 4 of them. And I remember this job was one of the first times where I had to kind of start budgeting my time, because now I had this looming portfolio hanging over me of like, if you want to get into the field that you worked your entire ass off for, you have to continually update your portfolio and always be making things and always be posting on ArtStation and like share it on LinkedIn. The second that I graduated from my program and the second that I got back to work at like part-time retail, I've never had the same priorities ever again. And that portfolio still looms over me to this day. It's like a dangling threat, and it also like affects my ability to do personal work or anything for fun, any recreational activity, because now like it's like this giant like thing that I have to slot into my schedule as I work longer and longer shifts that take more and more free time, because now I'm not a student anymore. I'm in like my early 20s. They are expecting like more and more hours from me, and I have to make more and more money to pay off my student loans. This was my first foray into like real adulthood, and it was getting very hard to keep up with what I wanted to do, and I was starting to get exhausted. I was starting to get really burnt out. Like, I had been working so hard once I started that 3D program, and even after I graduated, like the second that I finished my graduation and I came back from like my small vacation to visit my partner, every day I was working on that portfolio, and every day it was like churning out projects, working on resources, you know, educating myself, like furthering myself. Like, I've never stopped like in quote the grind, but I would burn myself out and get exhausted and like sleep in until 12. Like, it was very, very difficult on me. And honestly, my portfolio was the first thing that took the hit. Like, it was the easiest one to cut out, because personal art and like playing video games is like free dopamine. It is like, hit it, like I get it, like that's, you know, that's my happiness for the day. But a portfolio is a grind, and it is something that you need to like to do, but it's still like it takes just so much out of you, especially when like you come back from a shift or like you just worked a shift and you're just like, I am exhausted. Like, the thought of, you know, working on my portfolio right now just drains the absolute shit out of me. I just want to play Splatoon for 8 hours and like eat soup and sleep. Like, that's all you want. So my era of like post-graduation working retail definitely was the first time where I started feeling the squeeze of being an adult and trying to handle having creative hobbies and leisurely hobbies and also making money. Granted, like looking back over the past, like, you know, with the experience of the last like basically like year and a half, like 2 years under my belt, that time was, I took for granted that time in a way. So I stayed at that job, that like kind of part-time 9 hours a day retail job for a few months, and then I visited my partner for a small little vacation because I had not seen him in a year. And by the time that I came back, it was now like January 2024. It's been a year since I graduated. I had applied to many jobs over the course of working that part-time job. I had a polished portfolio. I shopped it around. I went to as many events as I could. I went to mixers, you know, I networked as best I could, and no one was biting. People were still getting laid off. I believe in January 2024, that was the worst month we had ever seen for the game layoffs. I believe that was the month that like 9,000 employees got laid off from Microsoft, I want to say, or like Activision. It was very, very bleak. And at that point, I just kind of had to give up on my dream. And it was at that point that I kind of realized the writing was on the wall, because the jobs that were available for someone like me that I was qualified for, I was not able to get. The amount of juniors looking for work was increasing and increasing as more and more people got to the level that they would be qualified for those jobs and were not able to get them because seniors who were laid off 3 months ago from the last round of layoffs from a different studio were now applying for those jobs because they don't have any senior applications open. So my prospects and my hope were very thoroughly destroyed, and I decided that I would need to kind of gravitate towards a different field with what I had to try to salvage, you know, my adulthood, because at that point I was like 23 and kind of have to get my shit together. So with the help of an employment agency, I ended up finding work with 3D CAD and manufacturing, and that was the point where, you know, my life has never been the same. That was my very first full-time job, Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, 9-hour shifts. I get like an hour break. My first foray into full-time employment. And I did not hope for it to have been 3D CAD and manufacturing because that is not my field. I dreamt of working, you know, an 8 to 5 in a studio where I got to, you know, talk with other creatives and like expand my skill set and work on projects every single day. But now I, you know, get to manufacture blocks and touch grease and change tools and whatnot. And at that point, my art has also never ever been the same. I would leave work exhausted every single day. At first, the routine helped me, and the amount of money I was getting in would kind of placate how I was feeling because I could just kind of buy whatever I wanted and could just like like retail therapy myself. But after a few months, I think once month 7 kind of hit, like not even a year in, I just started really burning out. Like I became more of a shitty person. I would come home from work and I would like immediately go into my bedroom. I would have trouble doing basic tasks. Like I could upkeep my showers and like keep like myself generally taken care of, but anything in the house was like a fucking free-for-all. I wouldn't do dishes. I would like run back to my room after dinner. It was difficult for me to do any sort of task. Like anytime like I could help out around the house, I would choose not to because I would get more dopamine by going back into my room and like playing a video game or drawing with the few short hours of free time that I had that night before I had to go back to bed, get like not a whole lot of sleep because I don't want to go to work tomorrow, and then wake up at like 6:50 in the morning and go back to work again for another 9 hours. And it just fucking destroys you. I'm seeing a lot more talk about people who can't like book appointments or like can't hang out with their friends now that they work an 8 to 5, and it is genuinely true. It was really difficult for me to make simple appointments because the world operates on an 8 to 5, and when you're part of the world, then you don't get to participate in the world. Like it really messes with you. I would have to take time off work to go and do a dentist appointment or like a doctor's appointment, and the only reason I was able to not take time off of work was because we ended up getting like a new shift implemented on us where we would work like 11 hours for 4 days and get Friday off. So I was able to fill in some like hangouts with my friends who only were free on the weekdays because they worked retail on the weekends. I was able to, you know, do some medical stuff there. But the vast majority of, you know, everyone works 8 to 5 Monday to Friday, and there's little you can do about it. And honestly, those like new shifts, they were night shifts, they just destroyed me. They burnt me out more than anything else. Like it was very difficult to just even function at that point, let alone like do anything. And that portfolio that like still looms over me, even though I decided that I wasn't going to go into games or animation anymore. Like I don't know, it just really sucks. Like I had to like budget my time, and I just stopped drawing as much. There were some months where I didn't draw at all. I stopped coloring because like being able to draw in of itself was more fun than coloring, because coloring would take kind of too long. So I would draw more and just not color it and just have more drawings like of themselves. And then making my YouTube also was starting to take away like time that I could draw as well. And I quickly dropped YouTube despite how well it did, because I was like, well, I have to make money. I have to get my life started. Like I have things that I want to do in life. I'm now 25. I have a house that I want to own at some point. I have like a partner that I need to, you know, sponsor to live with me. Like there are lawyer fees that I have to pay. There are like a lot of immigration fees that are going to cost a lot of money. Like there's rent that I want to pay. There's places that I want to live. There's things that I want to do. Like to participate in society, you have to have money. So I kept my full-time job, and also I was very afraid of being judged by my family for like quitting a full-time job just to what, like draw all day? Like imagine like getting a full-time job that like pays decently and like has insurance with benefits, and then like you quit it because, oh, I didn't like that I couldn't draw for more than a few hours a day, so I downgraded to like part-time. Like I couldn't like handle it, so I kept that job for a very long time. And it wasn't until recently that I changed it, and looking back, it has changed my work in ways that I fully cannot control. I can only now start changing my work a little bit for the better now that I've kind of swapped my full-time with my freelance, and doing this at all was embarrassing. Like talking about it, like I just feel embarrassed doing this, to be completely honest. But I was only able to do it because, you know, people believed in me, and like people on YouTube were very nice to me, and like my one video like getting over 100k views. I don't think if that video did well, I wouldn't have the confidence to try this. So I do want to thank everyone that, you know, commented and liked that video and watched it. I know it did well because it was like an exercise video, and those get views, but I didn't realize it at the time. So like when it blew up, I was very, very surprised. But yeah, just thinking about, like, it's just misery. It's literally just daily misery. Like you're running on fumes that, like, you know, are dangerous to breathe in and barely keep you alive, but like you're hoping for any kind of hit at dopamine that you can get. And when you don't have responsibilities yet, like I don't have children, you know, my partner is not, you know, living with me full time, it's very easy to just, you know, be kind of a bum and like not help at all. And it really hurt my relationship with my family in some ways as well, because like I just kind of became an asshole. I feel like I don't see artists talking about this quite as much as I do like non-artists. So I see a lot of non-artists say, you know, how am I supposed to do X, X, and X next when I work 8 to 5? Or like my commute is an hour. My shift is like 8 or 9 hours. Like how in the world am I supposed to do anything? And I got very lucky because my commute was only 20 minutes. Many people have to drive upwards to like an hour and a half just to get to work. And I think I would genuinely die if that happened to me. Like I really don't know because I already woke up like way too early for my liking. But I see a lot of non-artists talking about this conundrum of like, you know, needing to participate in society and needing to exist as a human being and tend to all your needs and and again, pleasure is also a need. You do need to be able to have fun and have leisure. Tending to all of those needs while working an 8 to 5 Monday to Friday long commute, like still have things to do at home. Like how do you do that? And if those people are having a problem, who's to say what artists are doing with an 8 to 5? I decided to forgo like my relationships and like tending to the house and like being a decent person so that I could fill that slot with drawing or playing video games. And I guess I just don't see a whole lot of artists kind of talking about that, where like maybe they're not in a related 8 to 5 full-time job and they do art on the side. You know, how do they handle it? I find most artists that talk about that are usually like seniors or like mid-level artists who are in like their late 20s or early 30s. And like they'll draw on the weekend or something. Like I don't know, like us 20s artists working like non-art related full-time jobs, like how are we doing? Because I hated it. I was a miserable person, and like it just burned me out so much that I was like, I can't do this. I literally, and it really doesn't help that like my job in of itself is not, you know, making the best case for itself, because it was not the best job in the world, and I'm severely underpaid, and being a woman in manufacturing does make my life significantly more difficult, to the point where like I'm not gonna get into it, but you know, you get treated differently. And discrimination does happen. But yeah, I guess I'm just curious, like, if anyone else was in a similar, or it still is, in a similar situation that I'm in, you know, how do you cope? Like, what did you get rid of in order to draw? Or like, did you not draw? Because like, you know, the choices that I make of what I prioritize change, because, you know, some months I just didn't draw at all. And those are the choices that I made for some of those months. Like I remember February and December of like 2025, there's nothing. And that's insane to me, from someone who drew like every single day, had multiple drawings in my monthly folder, to having an empty monthly folder, or I didn't even bother to make a monthly folder at all. It's just depressing. It's just sad, man. It's really sad. Because art is so vital to like who you are as a person, and like other people enjoy art. Like if every artist with a full-time job stopped prioritizing art, you'd have a lot less stuff to look at when you go on Twitter. Like, you would have a lot less fan art to like comment under, you would have a lot less things to like look at or appreciate. I don't know, man. But yeah, I'm very curious how other people have dealt with this problem. And honestly, the reason why I decided to make this video in the first place is because since I swapped my full-time with my part-time, this is my first month, by the way. January is my first month of this new career-ish. Trying to work on the branding for my channel so that I could, you know, make more videos and get those out more frequently was very difficult, and I still haven't finished it because I opened up Photoshop and I didn't know what to do. It has been so long since I, you know, made a finished piece that had any intention of like being perceived a certain way that I froze, and I genuinely didn't know what to do. And that terrified me. That's from someone who made so many illustrations all the time. I wanted to get into an illustration program, to now not even knowing what to do when I open up Photoshop. It's just embarrassing and it feels pathetic. It's really sad, and it scared me a lot. It made me realize how much kind of was taken away from me, even though I gave up so much of myself and my relationships with other people to keep drawing. But even though I kept drawing, I was doing it in a way that like made me happy and did not, like, I never made any full pieces. I just, like, you know, drew my OC or something like that. So now I'm at the point where, okay, you know, let's try freelance, like, let's try making this branding for like my channel, and I don't even know what to do. That's just embarrassing. So I thought, okay, I did have this topic in my head for a while because I did know that, you know, working full-time did change my work, but it immediately went to, I think I need to talk about this right now because it's affecting me and it's making my life difficult, and it's making this transition difficult, and it's something that I do now have to dedicate time to fixing. It's something that I have to, you know, do some work on. It's going to take some time to get back into it. And it also made me realize that, again, as I've stated, I'm just not seeing this conversation happen with kind of the art community. I'm seeing it happen with non-artists more than I'm seeing artists. And so I guess I'm just really curious, like, am I alone in this struggle? Am I the only one who like really hurt my relationships with other people and like became a dick just so I could draw a little more and like run back to my desk like I'm 12? Or are other people, you know, facing this issue too? And also, like, I have a lot of anxieties around, okay, is this the right move? Because like when I worked full-time, I tried saving up as much money as possible, and I'm now in a position where like I have like 3 years worth of rent technically if I had to pay rent, so I'm definitely not screwing myself, don't worry. But, you know, is this the right move to make? Is it worth shooting for my passions, or like just getting another full-time job in a different field, right? Like, that was also a choice that I could have made, and it would have been a little bit more difficult just due to the nature of the work that I did when I worked full-time in like 3D CAD. It's not exactly transferable, and it's a little bit niche, so I kind of get screwed both ways. So I was like, you know what, if it's going to be difficult, I might as well make it difficult in a way that like I will work late into the evening on, you know, this sort of thing, but come 5 o'clock, I do not want to be making stuff in SolidWorks anymore. I want to go home. I want to go draw. So I guess like that's my answer to like the security of the 8 to 5 versus passion, but I'm also naive. This is my first time trying this, so like maybe in a year I'll look back at myself and think, you know, that was a stupid decision to have made. I'm curious if anyone else has made that decision. I know some people have, and I see it on Reddit sometimes, but yeah, that's something else that I'm kind of curious about, like what kind of decisions people are making, because especially too like with the economic situation that we're currently having, it's just not good across the board as well. I don't know, it's a whole thing. It's a lot. But I think I got a lot of my thoughts out. And I'm very thankful to anyone that may have listened to me up until this point. I'm very grateful. I really appreciate that people do like what I want to say. And I promise that I'm doing my best to not, you know, hurt this opportunity that I've, you know, worked so hard for, because not a lot of people get the chance to like have a few months grace of starting their like freelance sort of stuff, because like I have a few months where I'm not paying rent, and I'm very, very grateful, and I'm really trying to work my hardest to make sure that I make this work. So I very much appreciate anyone who has stuck by up until this point. And I really appreciate anyone if you do happen to leave a comment and answer any of my questions or kind of talk about your experience. It really means a lot to me, and it's a conversation that I would like to have again, especially with the economic situation, because a lot more people are looking to kind of go freelance. So I think a lot of people are looking at the decision that I made where it's like, well, if it's going to be difficult, I might as well make it related to what I like. Anyway, I think at that point, I'm going to wrap up here. I do kind of want to quickly get into what's going to be happening next. So I failed to mention this, as I've realized very quickly. I opened up a online store, and I've established my business as like a freelance, merch, whatever. I did that over the summer. I opened an online store. You would have seen it if you follow my Instagram or my Blue Sky. It had a very, very small launch, but a very nice launch. Everyone was very kind to me. I worked very hard for about a month and a half after still working full time, getting this business kind of off the ground. I really wanted to make a video talking about it, but I was never able to in between recovering from the burnout of getting that online store open and then dealing with everything that happened over the kind of the fall and December. It's a whole thing. I got a lot of lore. I'm not going to talk about it here, but at some point I will cover my online shop, and I do want to take it as a day by day because I logged every single thing that I did in a Notion database on like a calendar and all sorts of things, and I have like an absolute metric ton of insight that I can give because a lot of things were not explained or like elaborated in many of the online shop YouTube videos out there except for like one. So I do want to share my experience and help other people because a lot of people are looking to start making merch and a lot of people are looking to like kind of start going freelancing. So that's something that I would like to work on. I also have that like sculpting video that I was trying to work on. It's just been a whole thing, but for now I'm going to focus on what's immediately available to me to get work. So I have an event at the end of this month for a Splatoon tournament, and I have an online I have a planned online store relaunch coming like around like February with the Splatoon merch lineup that I will be doing at the tournament, and also like some other merch that I would like to work on in February, mostly probably Pokemon because I've been playing Pokemon TA, and then also the merch that I had for my launch. And then I think March there might be another event that I am applying for and hoping to get into. So lots of things are happening, but as I stated at the start of the video, I am focusing on YouTube and the merch stuff. So you will see more YouTube videos more often, and I will be doing a lot more merch stuff, and I'm hoping to also make videos on that merch stuff because I very much like sharing my science and my experiments and all the things that I learn and can share. So yeah, thank you very much for anyone that has watched fully until the end. I know I've already thanked people who watched up until like the main point of the video, but if you stuck around this long, probably because you're doing chores in the other room or you're drawing, I very much appreciate continuing to listen. And I hope everyone has a great 2026. If you're someone that, is also struggling with me with the full-time stuff, I honestly barely have any advice. A lot of it comes down to the kind of the choices that we make and what we want to do. Looking back, I would have for sure done a lot of things differently, but also like asking someone to stop drawing is kind of a really big ask, and I don't think I would have done it. I sympathize with anyone working full-time and still trying to draw or do art or anything, and I know it's like one of the most insanely difficult things in the world, and I'm just kind of hoping that like we can just have a better 2026 than 2025. But I know come December 31st I'm gonna say fuck 2026, so let's just do our best. Thank you everyone, and I hope you have a good one. Bye.